Oh, so I'm not crazy. So, because you know they're using the fact, like people like Candace use the fact that George Floyd was a drug dealer who had priors as a reason as to why we should be okay with him being murdered. Okay, and then I pray for Derek Chauvin. Derek Chauvin had 18 prior complaints against him. Do y'all know that? Police confirmed the complaints were, this is from a CNN article. The police confirmed the complaints were filed, but didn't detail why the complaints were filed or what they entailed. In other words, they were hiding it. Okay. Only 2 of the 18 complaints were closed with discipline. So he had 18 complaints. 2 of them resulted in consequences. In both cases, Chauvin only received a letter of reprimand. According to Communities Against Police Brutality, a Minnesota nonprofit that created a database of complaints against officers in the state, Chauvin received oral reprimands for using a demeaning tone and derogatory language and other language that merited discipline. Neither the nonprofit database nor the Minneapolis Internal Affairs public summary includes dates or descriptions that incited the complaints, which I would imagine because the police department wouldn't release them. The other officer, Tao, who was also involved in Floyd's arrest, had 6 complaints filed against him with internal affairs, which one of them was still open, the summary said. The 5 were closed without discipline. So my point is, this guy, George Floyd, might have had priors, but so did Chauvin. And priors as a police officer usually means you be handling business in a way that is not becoming of an officer of the law. That's generally what that means. Unless George Floyd was a literal murderer and there was a reason to believe that he was going to kill those police officers, the way that was handled was not appropriate. And it looks like Mr. Floyd, or not Mr. Floyd, just excuse me, it looks like Mr. Chauvin has a habit of handling things the wrong way. I got plenty of cops that are friends. Okay? Not a single one of my cop friends has complaints against them. Now, my cop friends that I do have are black, but they don't have any complaints against them. They've never been in any trouble. It's not really that hard. This man has a history, but she's praying for Chauvin. But George Floyd's a criminal, and therefore we should subjectively assume that Chauvin was innocent and had no intent on harming him.
To divide Americans along race lines before an election.
Well, it's easier for me.
Now, I can admit that there was likely an attempt to divide Americans along racial lines or really police justice rather, right before the election. I can admit that because, like I said, the problem with the George Floyd situation was if the same situation happened under Donald Trump, under Joe Biden, it probably wouldn't result in the same type of protest. I said that honestly, the killing of black people under Biden could and probably will remain the same or go up, and everyone will likely turn a blind eye unless it happens right before an election, in a race that is a little bit too close, especially if it's going to be against Donald Trump. I said that. I've been said that. I can believe that. If you want to talk about the attention that it got, right? If you want to talk about the fundraising that came from it, from the BLM 501c4 nonprofit organization that was ran by a woman who literally bought a bunch of homes instead of fighting back against police brutality and unaccountability, right? I can agree with that. But Candace, nothing you said makes sense. You contradict yourself. This is my problem with Candace. Where Candace gets it right, like with Israel, she gets it right because it's experiential. She's not pushing a narrative, right? She gets Israel right because she's not pushing a narrative. She gets even the private prison industry. She gets it right. If you actually heard her talk about it, she actually gets it right because she's not pushing a narrative. She's talking about experience. But this is from a time when she was working. I don't know if she was working at the Daily Caller still, or if she was working with Charlie Kirk at TPUSA. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's very obvious. Whenever you tell Candace to push a narrative, she can't help but contradict herself. And it becomes clear that it's a bias. It becomes clear that you're trying to push a narrative rather than explaining the narrative objectively and concluding based off of the facts that we have what happened versus what didn't happen, or what we can say for sure at least versus what we can't say for sure. Like, for example, why the hell would a quote unquote drug dealer supposedly ingest fentanyl willingly, knowing it will kill you? There's not a drug dealer law that sold fentanyl knowingly and willingly and decided, I'm going to hide the fentanyl by ingesting it, because they all know, everyone knows, it will kill you. So let's continue. I want to hear Jimmy's response.
You just say that you hate black people. And,
yeah, I know. It's easier for the media too.
Kurt, you want to say something?
Yeah. So, my girl's from Florida, so she's, I don't want to say white trash, but she knows her way around police arrests with drunkenness.
Okay.
And she explained to me, and I never heard of this, the Asian cop who's saying, turn that camera off in it.
Nope.
The police precinct, you're supposed to have call an ambulance when a guy's on drugs like that. So that guy was supposed to be, while he's subduing Floyd, that guy's supposed to be getting an ambulance, not telling people not to film it. I don't know if an ambulance showed up, but that's massive negligence on the police's part. But if I had to guess, they're not going to say the Asian guy's at fault when they got a white guy, right? Am I wrong?
No, the Asian guy as well was sentenced, and it was that was like his first day on the job. It was literally his
I just told y'all, bruh. I just told y'all that Asian guy that she's referring to had 6 complaints already. It was not his first day on the job, bruh. The Total. That's the guy that she's referring to. It was not his first day on the job. I don't know why she just sat here and lied for the camera like that. Like, no, it wasn't his first day on the job. He had 6 complaints prior to this. And if it was his first day on the job, then that responsibility still falls on his senior officer to not tell him what to do in that situation.
Literally there to shadow Derek Chauvin. I mean, what has happened to those police officers is a crime. They should all be released. Derek Chauvin died of a drug overdose, as he had been a drug addict for a very long time. He was a drug addict and a criminal. And unfortunately, he met his maker that day because he could not get over his addictions.
Just so, Candace, bro. He just so happened to meet his maker on the very coincidental day that someone put a fucking knee in the back of his neck. You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious, Candace? Come on, bro. Like, just use your damn brain. That's the problem. It becomes so obvious that you turn it off because you say stupid shit like this. He's been a drug addict this entire time. Okay? And it just so happens to be the day that the cop puts his fucking foot in the back of the neck, that he just so happens to have an overdose, and he just so happens to die. And you don't find that it's suspicious that the camera angles are fucking suspicious to you. Camera angles, Candace. But the 18 complaints against Derek Chauvin that had already been filed weren't suspicious. That you didn't even mention. You didn't even look into. Haven't done any legitimate resource with all the power and connections and the network and the money and the access that you have. You didn't even think, let me try to figure out what these complaints were before I make an ass out of myself. You didn't think about that, Candace? Come on, bro. Someone being a criminal does not mean they deserve to die. It doesn't exonerate a police for doing their job wrong, which resulted in the death of this quote unquote criminal. I don't understand why I have to fucking explain this to people. There are a lot of criminals out there, quote unquote, that have a history, that have been living a wonderful life since they paid their dues. They got family. They're living in peace. They're helping out and giving back to their communities. And that does not mean that one day in a random police stop that they deserve to die because of something that happened in another part of their life. And it is It's ridiculous, people. It's like you know how many coincidences have to line up because you're like, he had a history of drug use. Oh, he had a history, and you're a big motherfucker. So he had a history, he's big as hell. And that day, coincidentally, with a knee in the back of his neck for 8 minutes, is the day that he died of drug use. Coincidentally, of the drug, by the way, that everyone knows would kill you if you ingest, hell, a little bit of it, let alone a lot of it. And no one has confirmed that he's ingested these drugs, by the way. I do know that. No one has confirmed that. So.
Now, like I said, I spent time with his roommates. I sat down. They met him in rehab. They talked about his struggles. The media turning him into some sort of an angel who died for the sake of Black people.
No one turned him that.
An absurd lie. It's a dangerous lie. It's a deranged lie. And
Hold up.
just reserve.
So the media turning George Floyd to the hero is an absurd lie, a deranged lie, but turning Derek Chauvin into a hero isn't fucking deranged? Yeah, man, you know, he put his foot, he had to put his foot in the back of that neck, man. He had to put his foot in the back of George Floyd's neck. After she admits George Floyd allegedly said, put me on the ground, please. In other words, you had to put your foot in the back of the neck of a man who was already subdued in order to subdue him. So it's absurd if the media uplifts him as a hero, which I've never really saw. I saw that they were pissed. People were pissed, rightfully so, the way he was killed, and the fact that he was killed, and the fact that Chauvin had the history that he's had. That's what I saw. But you literally like, we should pray. I prayed for Chauvin every day. Bro, for real, come on. See, and this is what kills people when you start talking about shit like this, Candace. This is why it's hard for people to get on your side with shit for when it comes to like Israel and Palestine. That's why we want to give you credit where credit's due, but then people like myself, we gonna come under attack every time because y'all know I'm objective. I'm gonna give you the credit when you get it right. But the problem is, I'm gonna come under attack every time because you're an idiot who says stuff like this. And the problem is, you're not really an idiot. You just play an idiot for your fucking puppet masters. You play an idiot for your ideology. You play an idiot to confirm your bias, to confirm them checks arrive in your bank account on time. But you're not really an idiot. You just play one for TV. Let me get my refill.
Such anger in my heart for people who think that Derek Chauvin or any of those police officers, after you watch the full arrest tape, you walk away and you go, what did these men do wrong? What did they do wrong? And then, yes, telling people to clear out when people started coming around. That's what you're supposed to do, right? They're coming around, they're starting to film. You've got a guy, you're holding him down, you're arresting him. He's been saying he can't breathe since he was standing up, you know? So unless he's going to tell you, hey, I just ingested enough fentanyl to kill a horse, because that's how much fentanyl he ingested, enough fentanyl to kill a horse, you're just thinking this is somebody that's just trying to avoid an arrest. And they keep asking him, dude, why are you acting weird? What's going on? He's standing up and saying, I can't breathe. I'm claustrophobic. I don't want to get into the police cruiser. Put me on the ground. The fact that you don't know these things really shows you how demented and dishonest our corporate media is.
And so do you know what the autopsy's cause of death was?
Yeah.
See, this is where I would like Jimmy to push back. So maybe people were upset about that. Is that what people were upset about? I don't know. No one actually mentioned where like they're upset about Jimmy in this particular topic, but maybe it's the fact that normally he would push back if he felt strongly enough about this issue. But he wouldn't even have to push back much, in my opinion. Like, what the fuck? You just said that he was subdued. You just said that he did. I'm not crazy, right? She did just say he said that he wanted to be put on the ground. So in other words, he was already subdued. So why'd you put a fucking knee in the back of his neck? That's what I'm confused about. So maybe that's what people are upset about. I don't know. Because like at that point, it's just a logical thing. You don't have to know everything about the situation to hear her words and push back in that situation. You don't have to know the technicalities of what took place to hear her words and be like, well, hold on, based off of what you just said, why did you have to put a knee in the back of his neck at all? Right? Okay. So if that's what they're upset about, I can kind of see that.
So they had an autopsy.
And it's specifically because of Jimmy, right? We know Jimmy, when he interviews people and he feels strongly about something, or if he hears a fallacy in logic, he generally has zero problem pushing back. He'll interrupt you if he has to in order to push back. So I could see if that is what people are upset about, that I could kind of see.
Autopsy that showed, literally, you got to watch my documentary, that showed that he had enough fentanyl in him to kill a horse. So that's probably, you know what happens when you get fentanyl? I can actually tell you because I had a foot surgery. So they actually get you basically, it makes you stop breathing. That's like that's when it's working. You're supposed to stop breathing. Like it slows down your breathing. And the idea that he took as much as he did, that he even had the ability to take as much as he did and still be alive for as long as he was, is what's shocking.
It's almost as if maybe he didn't actually ingest fentanyl and it was put in his system after he died. Maybe that's why he lasted. It's like you can't tell me that the same police department that was hiding camera angles, because once again, she's like, we gotta believe that the fentanyl was there beforehand, because she hasn't given any proof. There's no video proof, no proof that the fentanyl was in his system before he was choked the fuck out. There was no proof of that. Okay. Being a drug addict, if he was a drug addict and he was working his way through it, that's good for him. Being a drug addict, you would know not to ingest enough fentanyl to fucking kill a horse. Also, being a drug addict, no, you don't wake up that day and you're like, I'm going to take fentanyl. It's crazy because Candace hasn't really lived a life. I don't think that she understands that fentanyl is not a drug. Like, it's a drug, but what I'm saying is it's not like weed where somebody's like, let me get an ounce of fentanyl. Let me get 30 milliliters of fentanyl. Let me get a dab of fentanyl. You get what I'm saying? I don't think that Candace realizes no one just has fentanyl, except for the government was probably planning it and lacing everything with it. But no one just is like, I got a bunch of fentanyl. I'm gonna take me some fentanyl to relax. I'm gonna make some fentanyl in my beer before I go to bed, to help me calm down. I don't think that she gets it. No one, ladies and gentlemen, and I mean no one, is like, I'm going to purposely take fentanyl. In other words, until I hear a conversation about what drug that he allegedly ingested that may have been laced with the fentanyl, I don't even want to hear that fucking argument. I want to assume that it was planted on him after the fact, because no one does that. Anyone who's lived a life, I lived in Miami, guys. I've been to college. You know what I'm saying? I know I wouldn't call myself a professional or an expert, but I know enough. Okay, I have enough experience. And I know, hell, I'll tell you this, I worked in Boca Raton, and if you know anything about Boca Raton is the rehab capital of the world. Fentanyl was something that unfortunately killed a lot of people because they would relapse after a while, try to do heroin again, but the heroin was laced with fentanyl, and it would kill them. You get what I'm saying? Nobody just is like, I'm about to go ahead and sell me some fentanyl. No one does that. It's not a thing. And she exposes herself. She exposes her lack of experience. What did I say? Candace only gets it right if she has to have experience in the subject, and it has to be an emotional attachment to it. We all know she ain't really all that emotionally attached to black people, nor does she have that much experience with black men. But also, she has no experience with drugs, with weed, with fentanyl, the situation that fentanyl would be used in. Why people who take drugs of any kind, people who sell drugs, don't want anything to do with fentanyl. You don't kill your clientele. It's like she doesn't know this. So, but she's speaking so passionately about this. Like, he ingested enough fentanyl to kill a whore. So, is there a tolerance factor with this? Remember the cops who stole a pot of brownies and they, okay, no, there's a tolerance factor. So there's a tolerance factor of fentanyl, but no, you would have to regularly take fentanyl. Like that would be. Also, what would be the drug? There might be a tolerance. Like, let's just say there's a tolerance factor, which isn't that big, unfortunately, with fentanyl anyway. Like, there's not a lot. Like, there's not much tolerance you can gain with fentanyl. That shit just kills you, generally speaking. But no one that would be an argument saying that George Floyd was regularly just taking fentanyl, a drug that no one just takes. That is not a thing. That is not a thing. I cannot stress this enough. It's not a thing. When last time you heard any of your drug user friends, any of your friends who partake in psychedelics, marijuana, okay, perhaps Somali every rave or so once or twice a year? When have you ever heard anybody say, I'm about to go cop me some fentanyl? Nobody. I've never heard anyone say that, bro. And I live in the rehab capital of the world. No, I didn't live there. I worked there. I work with people in rehab. There are some people that at the highest levels of drug dealing that cut their shit with fentanyl. At the highest levels. But it would be mixed with heroin. It would be mixed with marijuana. It would be mixed with cocaine. It would be mixed with how many druggies do you know? Bro, I lived in Miami, y'all. Oh, what you mean? How many druggies do I know? Too damn many. That's how many. I lived in Miami. I worked in Boca Raton. I used to club quite often. I know a lot of people who have taken drugs in the past. It's okay.
Well, maybe
he was an addict.
Maybe the Innocence Project will take up the case of Officer Chauvin.
I genuinely hope that somebody does, and I hope that just us talking about it, that people will be outraged about what happened to those police officers.
No.
So I just wanted to play this. I saw your interview with Piers Morgan, who was Sharp's attack.
Okay, so I'm guessing that's what people were upset. I'm assuming that's why now, because he didn't push back in that situation. I thought he would push back a little bit more. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I guess that's why people are upset. But no, that's ridiculous. Her fucking argument is ridiculous. I thought that maybe I could be left more convinced, at least be more willing to envision that perhaps they have a little bit more of an argument than maybe I perceived there to be in the past. No, I'm actually more convinced now that what the fuck happened to George Floyd was wrong. I don't know how Jimmy didn't push back on that. I'm not gonna lie to you.